Everyone seems to blame themselves for a lack of discipline. I really don't think it's your fault. Most people take being undisciplined as a personal or moral failure. I think this is risky because we're reducing something as complex as discipline to a personal shortcoming. I really don't think it's that simple. I think the environmental complexity matters much more than any personal shortcoming. What I mean by this is that the age we live in today is far different than one of 20 years ago. And discipline in today's society is not the same as it used to be. In today's society, we have so many high dopamine activities that our brains are under constant stimulation. Our brains are wired to escape boredom. Physiologically, that's how our brains are wired. We don't want to experience negative emotions. It's not really your fault that you're avoiding them. That's just kind of how you're wired. In today's society where we have so many distractions, you are literally playing life on hard mode. Video games, pornography, weed, junk food. Just 50 years ago, these things were not even existent. I mean, the most dopamine you could get was, maybe doing drugs, I guess. But even drugs were much less widespread back then. But back then, probably reading a newspaper, reading a book, watching black and white TV, there were ways to get higher dopamine and cause you to escape. But, let's say 100 years ago, what could you possibly do? You had no choice but to bear your emotions and live with the pain. And by doing so, you learn how to be disciplined. Because I think that discipline is really just overcoming your negative emotions. When we're doing something we don't want to do, and we give up, we say we quit because we're not motivated. But what really that means is that we don't feel enough positive emotion to overcome the negative emotion that we feel, such as a fear of failure or the fear of boredom, the pain of boredom. Discipline requires boredom, and we have removed that from our society. Another reason why you feel lack of discipline is that there is a lot of fear-mongering in our society. What I mean by that is when you go on Reddit, you hear people complaining about the job market and how cooked it is. And it's not that they're completely wrong, but there's this sort of comfort in circle jerking over how bad the job market is. It's just a thing to keep you stuck. It's like this hive mind virus of negativity, which is not really your fault for being susceptible to, but it compromises your motivation and makes you less disciplined because you have this kind of cope, and it's not even your fault for believing it. It's so widespread. There's this cultural satisfaction with being stuck. People are scared, but they're not mobilized. They don't know what to do with this fear, and it's overwhelming. And in today's age of distractions, when people are faced with this fear, they don't confront it like our ancestors did. They don't live with it and sit with it. They escape from it. This fear that's so present in our society only motivates escapism. When we feel scared, what do? We reach for drugs. We reach for escape, TV, video games, junk food, pornography, whatever it is. And these escapes are so much more prevalent in today's society than they used to be. It's so hard to convince our monkey brains to not fall victim to them. How do you convince yourself to feel pain? It's such a hard thing to do. I'm not saying it's impossible, but it's fucking hard. And it's not entirely your fault for not being able to do it. Yes, there's a certain aspect of personal responsibility and free will. I can't deny that. But I do think that that is the minority. The minority of the brunt of the blame. I think the majority of the blame goes to your environment. One example of this is your parents and role models. A lack of disciplined role models will fuck you up your discipline. How do you learn how to be disciplined without learning it from someone? Kids don't learn, they imitate. If your parents were super undisciplined, if your friends are super undisciplined, if you have no one to learn it from, nobody to teach you, it's not really your fault. You're kind of screwed. You have to figure it out on your own somehow, or put yourself in a situation where you're forced to be disciplined, kind of like a military boot camp or something. Another problem is that the motivation methods that our parents use on us don't really work. When your parents get home from work, they probably watch TV, they probably escape. But if your parents are the kind that work when they get home, they're still working, they're still doing productive things, that child will most likely end up developing that same discipline. And let's say your parents are motivating you, you're going to do your homework, and like they kind of force you to do it. They're like they use this negative emotion to incite you to do your homework. And that works in the short term, but in the long term it doesn't really work because it's not intrinsic. Any extrinsic motivator is not sufficient. It's not going to last unless it's permanent. Are your parents always going to be there to tell you? Are they always going to have the energy to? No. That's why you're not disciplined to do your homework. It's not coming from within. The real crux of my argument is that discipline comes from dreams. Without dreams, there is no motivation. Without your own dreams, why would you sit there and suffer the boredom of doing your homework? There's nothing worth suffering for. Dreams are what make life worth living and worth suffering for. Why would I go to the gym unless I had some dream that I was chasing? Something that motivated me to push through the pain. It's such as true with all of life. It's not that there's something wrong with you and you can't fix it. I mean, kind of there's something wrong with you, but it's not really your fault. What's wrong with you is that you don't have a dream. You don't have a concrete dream, and you forgot how to dream, or you never learned how to. Most kids know how to dream. Most kids have grand ambitions, but the world beats it out of us. What I want to do is teach people how to dream. I want to teach myself how to dream again. And I lost it, and I'm still trying to get it back. And I don't really know how to do it yet. But I think once you figure it out, you can also teach other people how to dream. If discipline feels harder, it's not because you're weak. It's because the world got louder and quieter where it mattered.